conference. This is a one-day conference to help teachers integrate technology in ways other than in innovative ways other than just the standard curriculum. We had 142 sessions, 109 presenters, including folks from outside the district. KDE, we had 223 Fayette County attendees, and we opened this conference up for free to teachers outside the district as well. Our total attendance was about 600. We also brought in all of the library media specialists for a training before the school year started. It was a full day of training. We had the Lexington Public Library come in to talk about the partnership between us and the public library so that we aren't duplicating resources. We have a program with them where every student gets a free library card so we can use all of their resources. We also talked about the future of schools, libraries, and the new library standards, as well as media literacy, to help students really understand what is authentic information and true information and what may be fake news. We had 45 of our librarians in attendance.
This summer, we put on our second annual Student Support Professionals Institute, which is our 3 days of professional learning. And the audience is the district FRC coordinators, social workers, guidance specialists, counselors, school psychologists, district mental health specialists, behavior specialists, FCPS administrators, school police, and nurses. 220 student support professionals attended days 1 through 3. And then on the last day, we had an additional 45 administrators, school police, and nurses. And we got to spend time with Dr. Melissa Reeves, who helped us with our suicide and threat assessment protocols. And our other two amazing speakers were Roger Dinwiddie and Julia Cook. We trained this summer in trauma-informed care for educators. Our goal as a district, of course, is to become trauma-informed. So just to give an overview of the impact of trauma exposure on youth and their functioning in school environments, we were able to train educators, school personnel, school nurses, and I would give or take about 500 employees trained this summer, and that includes new and veteran Fayette County employees, the school-wide staff of Ashland Elementary and Bryan Station Middle School, our Bluegrass Health First Clinic staff, and other large groups.
Can I interject? I know we're trying to be 100% trauma-informed, so like maybe where are we on that?
I want to say more than half of our schools have been trained, but as we get new employees in, we do separate trainings for them as well.
Right, and I saw that that was in the new employee training. So
yes.
We got them.
Yeah. Anytime somebody comes, we'll train them. This summer, we were able to send 6 Fayette County certified staff members to a Question, Persuade, and Refer Train the Trainer program. As our Project Aware grant ends, we just needed another training for suicide prevention. So we now have 6 district staff certified to train that curriculum. Youth Mental Health First Aid, as long as we have the books, we will continue to train. So this summer, we were able to train about 100 more people in Youth Mental Health First Aid, which they learn the risk factors and warning signs for potential mental health and addiction concerns, and just strategies on how to help in crisis situations. Good.
Hello. Safe Schools and PBIS did several trainings this summer to work around the reduction of behaviors and barriers to instruction because of behaviors. We were able to offer training around our student code of conduct and the changes to that, as well as classroom management and coaching classroom management. We did effective strategies for working with challenging students, and we were able to send 25 school-level people to the Innovative School Summit in Atlanta, Georgia, and Las Vegas, Nevada. And those people are now coming back and offering more trainings to their schools and other schools as a way of getting that information out to others for effective strategies for working with students with behavioral concerns. And then for Safe Crisis Management, they are still training. So this summer there was a total of 28 trainings and about 278 personnel were trained, but Tricia is not here tonight because she is doing a training right now as we speak. So those are still ongoing, and you'll see later through the year we'll have a total number of how many people got trained for this school year, but that's ongoing as we speak.
So earlier this month, FCPS School Police, the Lexington Police, Sheriff's Office, and Transylvania Public Safety participated in the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. The curriculum is really an evidence-based partly from Texas State and some staff at Texas State that have joined forces with the FBI. And really where Texas State falls into this is they've researched active shooter events, behaviors, and what actions to negate the force. So they've combined forces and they've spread this curriculum around the United States. This is the second year we've done this. They've never allowed you to photograph or document the events inside the building, but this year they did allow us to film and take pictures of the approach to the building. And so a couple of our local news agencies cover that portion and then the coverage as well. Next year we will do this again. It'll be a 4-day training, but on the 5th day we're trying to encompass a comprehensive event that may get public affairs, our agencies, other district officials to have like a kind of a comprehensive final exam, if you will, now that we've done this 2 years. And of course our venue will change. We did it at the east side this year, but we always want to change the venue, so different hallways are different, classroom sizes are different, so it's always fresh to us, and that's what we plan to do next year. But again, this year is a great training, the most realistic thing we've done to date, for sure.
So board members, we had 7,024 attendees over the summer at various professional learning opportunities, which is almost nearly 2,000 more attendees than this time last summer. I want to congratulate all the folks who presented tonight. They did an awesome job. We are blessed in Fayette County to be able to offer such wide range of professional learning. You can see that we added 3 new initiatives in our summer learning this summer for a total of 30 initiatives that were covered throughout the summer. So that's just such a great, diverse, and in-depth professional learning for our staff to continue to focus on improvement. So I want to say again, thank you for those folks who stayed late to come and present tonight that important information. Under the superintendent's report, I'd also like to ask our equity officer, Daryl Thompson, to give us an update on our equity work. Welcome, Daryl.
Looks like Myron Thompson
Oh,
is
it's-
filling
okay.
in for Daryl Thompson.
Are you coming up?
Are you coming up for the next?
Okay. The other Thompson.
The other Thompson.
My friend and colleague Daryl had something come up, so he asked me to just give a brief overview.
Thank you.
of his update.
Thank you.
So with that being said, Daryl is back, and it's a good thing. So as you know, the Equity Council is a standing committee of the Board of Education. There have been some vacancies, so Daryl wanted me to pass along that appointed through December of 2020, we have Ms. Shayla Lynch, which is Will Nash's appointment. I think Abdul Muhammad, Mr. Love's appointment. Talithia Rout is Mr. Murphy's appointment. And Craig Kamick is Ms. Spider's appointment there. And Daniel Whitley is Ray's. So 5 appointments through December of 2020. There were elections, and the highlighted in the blue are the elected officials that were on the August 6th meeting. Liliana Gomez, Glenda George, and Kim Thompson will be joining Ms. Gillespie, Mr. Nathaniel, and Dominique Olbert there. And we will have elections again, according to Daryl, in December of this year, so in a few months, to have those positions filled. And again, they have a full body now, and we'll be having meetings going forward. So there is an overview of the team, and that concludes my report, I do believe.
Thank you, Myron. So you can just stay right there. Yeah, if you'll just continue to give us an update, I think it's time for the 10-point.
No, construction.
Oh, construction first. Okay.
Let Bob get me loaded up here, I think. There is Brenda Cowan. I was glad to see the staff here
Yes.
earlier, so very excited about this project. You can see we are finishing up, not quite done. We're going to wrap up next month, but again, the areas of C, D, and E are up and running. We hit construction day 1 and are very excited about this project coming to closure. There is a rendering of the facility. Through the month of July, a lot of work in terms of the front entry curtain wall, painting, terrazzo, gym. You will see a lot of things are 100% complete. Sidewalks and playground areas are still working a little bit there. For the month of August, the casework in areas A and B, which is sort of what we're focusing on now because we wanted to get those other areas done for instruction. Now we're trying to finish up the rest of the project, so you will see that we're doing Casework, the first coat of paint in those areas. We've completed our metal wall and roof panels. Storm and earthwork, as well as our food service equipment, was done this month. We've installed windows in sectors A and B. We've had the final grading and retaining walls completed. Terrazzo flooring, which is critically important, is taking place in sectors A and B. The media center is wrapped up today, I think, and they will start moving in stuff tomorrow, hopefully. And as you know, we did have a ribbon cutting on August the 12th and the first day of school a few days later. So we do have a few photos there of our newest elementary school coming online. It was a very good day. I think you'll recognize a few of those folks there in the photo. And there are some more shots of the building in terms of the interior being complete in the areas that we've discussed, A, B, and C. And work taking place, in A and B. So we're still pushing along, but we'll have this wrapped up next month for final completion of that project. With that being said, we're transitioning right on to STEAM and success.
Can I say one thing about Brenda Cowan?
Absolutely.
So I thought the ribbon cutting was great. I had multiple Fayette County Public School staff members and community members come up to me and say, you don't know how lucky you are to have Myron and Melinda Desarn, because there's no way we would be in this building without their leadership. So I just want to publicly thank you all for your leadership on the board.
We appreciate that, Mr. Nash, and have a great team on Spring Hill that really pushes through. And again, a lot of things are out of our control in terms of the weather, but I think we've made the best of that situation. And Mr. Williams and his team have been just tremendous in terms of hitting the ground running. They've sucked it up through Director Smith there, helping them get through that. So it's really been a team effort, and we're just blessed to have such a fortunate community. So thank you for those kind words. As we transition to STEAM and success, new project rolling forward, there's a snapshot of the project. Our construction partners, and you can see very little activity thus far. We have a rendering, and there it is, of the facility.
Cool.
Very exciting about that. So we're trying to transform the front of the building, give it more of a modern 21st century look.
Nice.
For this month, pretty much the general contractor has been mobilized there at the site. We've got all of our paperwork in order, and we've started demolition within the building. About 30% of it has been demolished. The gym floor has been fully protected. If you're familiar with that facility, it was a very nice double-floored gym in there, and we've sort of taken measures to protect that. And we've started some footings and started cutting into some of the slab there for work that will continue. We've started the silt fence, the demolition in the areas where we will be putting in our geothermal will be started. Interior building demolition will be complete in areas A and C. And this building, as opposed to the other building, was on a V. This is more of a square with A, B, and C sectors as we talk through. Foundations are starting in Area B for our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing under slab rough ends, and foundations are starting in areas A and C. And we do have a few pictures there. So if you're familiar with the building, we've kind of taken the sledgehammer to it, starting over. So, but very exciting times.
Is there still space in addition, or will these two programs take up the entire?
They will pretty much take up every inch of that facility when fully at capacity.
And I have one question going back to Brenda Cowan. What is the traffic situation? How has that shaped out since school started?
You know, at every one of our schools, we have a few issues day one. But in this school in particular, being new and being on a state road, we've been in conversations with the state. They control the traffic flow on that particular section. Charlene Stevenson, our representative, has been working with us in Frankfurt. They had put in some improvements in terms of signage. I wasn't out there today, but they're supposed to be putting in a flashing light to assist with traffic there. So day one was a little rough, but by day two, they had sort of got a pattern down with the families, and things are moving very well. And we hope to get those improvements done on the road, and ultimately, hopefully, get a controlled intersection would be our preference.
And I think they're just right turning out.
Yes.
And ACE is just right turning out. And I think Hayes is right. They're all trying to work together.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we hope to have a controlled intersection there if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's out of our control, but I know folks are working on it, but that's good to hear.
Yes,
Thank you.
And then just give us a quick update on the plan, the construction plan, because it goes to Frankfurt, it goes to KDE in October, correct? Are we?
In terms of our amendment?
Yes.
That has been submitted and it's
Okay.
been approved, so we are good there.
Good to
It goes to the State Board of Education in October.
Yes.
And, but your part of that is done, and hopefully we will get that back from KDE
Parents and
soon, and we'll be done. But
All right.
the state board meets in October, and hopefully we'll review that and give their stamp of approval.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Now the
Myron, thank you so much. If you'll please just continue to give us our next report and update the board and our community on our 10-point comprehensive safety improvement and investment plan.
Will do, Ms. McAnally. There is an overview of the 10-point safety plan, and I think I have the first 5 items or so. Student and staff IDs have been implemented at all of our schools. The upgraded emergency communication system, the Crisis Go platform, has been implemented in 21 schools with ongoing training. So this is a work in progress. We are working with schools and school leaders in terms of getting this fully functional, but we've started and it is rolling out. Our interior and exterior facility upgrades included door alarms on all of our doors, and those are in place and protocols have been established in our schools. We also, now all schools, we were fortunate to have door access points at all of those. Security cameras are now in all Fayette County Public Schools. That wasn't the case this time last year, so that is an absolute win for us, having our school leaders with the ability to have cameras in their
Major
buildings.
improvement.
DVR camera recorders, again, this is just an update getting us more modern technology. The 2 sort of remaining big ticket items for us, of course, are the secure vestibules in 28 of our schools. We do have our vendor in place, our construction contractor, and construction will start in October and will run through December of 2020. And again, we will be working with schools because this is a critically important area. It's right in the main front office, and we have to make sure that we have absolute critical communication with minimal disruptions as much as possible there. So, in terms of our metal detectors and security ambassadors, as you know, we are currently up and running in 4 of our high schools. Lafayette, I think, will be arriving this week, and we will be rolling that out into September. And from there, we will be transitioning to Henry Clay with a September, October phase in there. And from there, we will start down to the middle schools. Any questions?
Thank you, Myron.
No, I think it's just important to reinforce, that might not even be the right word, but, you know, I know there's been a lot of questions, and a lot of the delays is that a lot of the equipment was delayed, because unfortunately the state of where our country is right now, there is a lot of this equipment is back-ordered and delayed, and so some of the delays have not been from your office or from us, but rather from the, just getting, unfortunately, the materials that we need.
One more question, Mike. Where do you see the capacity for some of the folks doing the ambassador work? That would be my only concern, that, you know, we get all 6 high schools. Each school that we've added is taking more officers or more ambassadors. What do you see when we get down into middle schools? Will they have the capacity to?
You know, right now, we typically see 3 to 4 firms bidding on this work.
It's the same 3 or 4.
So same 3 or 4.
Watching it, yeah.
And, you know, that's something, Ray, that I think we will have to have some discussions in terms of capacity going forward. I think that right now, for the 2 high schools that we have coming online, I think that the vendor that we are choosing has the capabilities, but I think it will be a monitoring situation just to making sure that we are seeing the appropriate staffing levels that we need. And maybe a broader outreach.
Wait, is there an opportunity to bring all of them in as vendors, the same 4 that bid on everything, and bring them all in and try to have some, you know, some workshops and work on some capacity building? Because everyone we have is doing a good job, so they understand how to do it. They need to be able to have the capacity to take on more payroll, get lines of credit, all the things that it takes to build your business out. We seem like we need to work with all of them to develop some of that, because there's a lot more schools coming online, and I worry about the capacity part of it, really do.
Absolutely, and sort of working within our competitive bidding requirements, making sure that we are staying within those, but at the same time, working with those who are interested to sort of show them sort of what will be happening and allowing them time to plan and getting their responses to us to review and to accept going forward. So
Good thoughts.
we'll take it.
All right, so we're holding steady at 58 officers. We had interviews on Friday. 2 strong candidates that came out of that. One is currently working for Lexington Police, but has been given the seal of approval by Chief Weathers, so we anticipate his retirement and transition to us, so we're excited about that. And again, we have the 5 in the academy. We had a unique experience where we have partnered with U of L Athletics to work with their athletes as they transition from being an athlete their whole life to getting a job. And Lieutenant Sims had a pretty good story about, he played sports since he was knee high, and he said, when I finally got out of college and went to get a job, I had no job experience at all. And so it was a little bit more difficult than I thought. I'd always been an athlete, but I had never really had a job. And so U of L, under the direction of Vince Tyra, who is a UK graduate, UK athlete, but now the athletic director at U of L, and his team have really taken a proactive approach to get their players internships and other opportunities so that they transition from the college ranks, that they would be marketable in the job world. On the right side, defensive end Tiberius Peterson has actually shadowed with us. His mom is a police officer in the Atlanta area. And admittedly, right now, we're plan B as he starts this year. But he, if things do not work out in the NFL, he's a really solid gentleman that got to go around to the schools with Lieutenant Sims. Spent the majority of his time at Frederick Douglass, but really got to see what we do. And we're really excited to partner with them going forward. So some of our back-to-school activities on the left, Cardinal Valley Back to School Bash on August 3rd. This is my attempt at bowling, and as was noted by a friend of mine, that I was the weak link of this partnership, and that for my ball was not in the right direction, and of course, I had to lean heavily on the 6-year-old for our spare, that we did not get a strike, but a spare. On the right side, again, I want to thank my team and council member Susan Lamb, who orchestrated a really impromptu back-to-school party at Southern Middle School to try to reach the communities of the Big Bear Lane, Sherrard Circle, and some of the areas of our city that have really experienced some violence over the past 6 months. In the picture is one of Louisiana Redcorn's team members. That's actually a prosecutor, Eric Finke, and so her prosecutors go out dressed as the Justice League, and he took it to heart and wanted to pose for this picture, so we obliged and took the picture with the fire department, and everybody had a good time. But that was, like I said, hosted at Southern Middle School, so another really good event to get the community, the school, parents, students, staff, and neighborhoods involved as we transition back to school.
The only thing I want to articulate to you is, as I was going to several elementary schools the first couple weeks of school, there seemed to be some confusion that why they didn't have officers yet, and so,
Sure.
and I know we kind of know that, but if we can work on kind of repassing that messaging on to our, we've talked about how this is going to be an ongoing, we're going to roll staff in, we're going to hire more nurses and more, and it's not all at once, but I think some were just surprised to come back and be like, oh, we don't. But I mean, with that said, the partnership with the police department and with you all has been amazing, and I know I've almost always seen someone at all the elementary schools this year, so, but just kind of making sure we're sharing that messaging with our staff as to what our timeline is.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
We currently have 43 district mental health specialists currently working in our schools, and we're so excited. This year we were able to place several of them in middle schools and high schools. The new ones who were hired over the summer participated in a 2-day orientation and just got to get acclimated with the school system and just learning about the ins and outs of working in a school building. We have another mini orientation tomorrow for 3 of them who weren't able to participate. We're so excited about that. And this may be the last time that Dee Dee and I present to you all because our director, Doug Adams, is cancer-free. So we're hoping he'll be back soon.
Well, we'll miss you at these meetings, but we will see you.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So for SEL, which also comes out of student support, as you know, the 3 curriculums have been picked, and we are currently working on the purchase orders to get those to schools. The onboarding for that won't really start into the spring of 2019-20 school year as we work with the companies to get the training in place and get the timeline rolled out for administrators to know what their staffs will have to do around those SEL curriculums. And they're listed there: Caring School Community for elementary, Maui Learning for middle, and then School Connect for high school.
I wish I was able to share more concrete news. We are definitely going to be opening a comprehensive medical clinic at LTMS in the spring semester. The issue is getting all of the players to agree upon a common approach. And
Sounds like an easy task.
yes, and we love all of our players, and we're excited for this process. And I cannot wait for the day that I'm up here dancing for it.
Coming soon.
Social media monitoring, we're coming up on our third quarter. We'll be evaluating the service to determine if we're going to continue with Social Sentinel. As the focus on school safety has expanded, there have been more players come into the market, so we want to make sure that we are getting the best deal, that we are getting the best service, and there may be other components that we need to look at integrating to help cover some of the limitations of the current service. So that's where we are with that. And this would normally be Daryl, and I don't know where we are on this. Do you have any information?
To see something, say something. There's signs up at several of the schools. I know that there's like a media campaign or something. Okay.
Okay. And we will have FAMU in November or December. And yes, we did have some safety information available at Cuts and Curls on August 12th, which was another wonderful program. And we were able to provide haircuts and hairstyles to more than 100 students that day.
A real quick question on the health. I asked this at the special meeting, and the information was new, and that may still be the case. On the ruling that schools can be reimbursed for mental health assessments with Medicaid dollars, do we have any update on that and how that might affect us?
I don't have an update right now. I did have a conversation with someone about it, and they're looking into it.
Okay.
And I hope we can get that information for you as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
So thank you all, and this concludes the superintendent's report. At this time, I'll turn the agenda back over to Stephanie.
So we have reached the portion of our meeting where members of the public can speak on items on our agenda, and there are no one has signed up to speak this evening. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the July 8th, 2019 planning meeting and the minutes of the July 22nd, 2019 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Love. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve consent items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Love,
Second.
second by Mr. Nash. Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And at this time, I will walk us through the action items. So the first item we have is the contract with Elevation Education. A motion is in order to approve a contract with Elevation Education to provide a platform for ELL student data.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nash,
Second.
second by Mr. Love. Any discussion?
Can we get just a 1-minute explanation of what this is?
Yes, I'd like to ask Director of English Learners and Gifted and Talented Services, Lori Bowen, to come forward to give you some additional information and respond to any questions you may have.
Sure. Elevation is a platform that houses all of our data related to English learners. It houses the service plans for each individual student. And this year, we are very fortunate that we're also piloting a section of schools to use strategies. So it will identify a data point about where a student is as far as language development is concerned, and it will give us strategies specific to that particular level of language acquisition. So we're excited about it. We've been using Elevation for several years now, and it's a very effective tool for English learners. We're excited to add a new piece to that.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And I think it's important to clarify, this is just data monitoring and tracking. There's nothing like about demographic or documentation staffs or anything like that, that none of that data is kept by the school district. It's just simply monitoring
It
for our
is.
ELL
Their
students.
individualized
Yeah.
education
Mhm.
plans.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm catching the lingo. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, board members. For our next action item this evening, I'd like to ask Chief Financial Officer John White and Finance Director Rodney Jackson to come forward to present our monthly financial report and unaudited year-end financial report. Welcome, John and Rodney.
It's been a few days.
Our close friends.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So first, I'd like to start with the monthly finance report, which will be the period 1 July. As you can see, we have revenue so far 68.6 million, expenses of 8.1 million, and a fund balance of 60 million.
So that is where we're starting.
That's where we're starting. No, that's the entire month. We have not. The next report will talk about where we're starting. Yeah. This is the July report.
And on those expenditures, I think we discussed this last meeting, those do include the encumbrances, right? Or just what's been expended?
No, as we changed, we talked to KDE and we talked to Munis, which is Tyler, and there was an issue with the report, not so much an issue, but the way it outlined, we used to have, you would see something say add encumbrances, and starting this month going forward, you will no longer see encumbrances.
Okay, so those are going to be left off.
Yeah. This is the general fund review, which shows comparative from this year to last year, showing 60 million versus 46 million. Comparative, looking at all funds, revenue is approximately 77 million, total expenditures 18 million, net fund balance of 59 million, as indicated by the black arrow. This is all funds, Fund 1 through Fund 7,000. We're in the middle of doing a bunch of audit adjustments and everything else. So all of the beginning balances have not been moved forward for all the funds yet because of some accounting things we need to take care of. But up under revenue from federal sources, that's where right now it shows 60.9 million in Fund 1. Revenue analysis reflects 68.6 versus 53 million as of July. We take out the beginning balance, 7.6 million versus 6 million for July. Expenses are 8 million and 6.4 million compared to from July 2020 fiscal year to July 2019 fiscal year. The balance sheet reflects total assets at 79.5 million, total liabilities 13 million. We remain strong and sound related to assets versus liability. Marcy Thompson, 234,000, Dorothy Smith, 19,000, John Price, 40,000. All other funds have been submitted to Bluegrass Community Foundation as agreed. Are there any questions or concerns?
Can you talk a little bit, what was emailed to us also included some of the June numbers, and it looks like there's a trend every June or May. There's a huge uptick in revenue, and there's also a huge uptick in expenditures. Can you just talk about what's driving both of those things?
Yes, if you can wait till next report, I will get into that
Great.
in more detail. Okay. Is there any other question about July?
No, but at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the monthly treasurer's report of the revenue expense reports as presented to the board.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Nash. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And now we will get to the finance report, the unaudited year-end report that everyone has questions about.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. We do have several informational items
We're
for,
still,
right here. Yeah, the school activity funds?
no,
We've got another report. in there.
they're still in there.
The year.
Oh, you're still on the other. Sorry, pardon me.
The scripts get you confused.
Thought we were on that.
The unaudited year-end report reflects
I apologize.
551 million in revenue, 490 million in expenses. I will get into the detail of what makes that up, but it nets at this point to be 61 million roughly, versus 42 million last year. And this is comparison from year to year, again, showing 61 million last year at this time versus 42 million. The summary of all funds combined reflects 749 million in revenue, 657 million in expenditures, and approximately 92 million as indicated by the black arrow. The detail of all funds throughout the year reflects all funds. Again, encumbrances no longer, once we close the year, it physically moves the encumbrances from one year to the next and become part of the budget. That's part of the discussion related to that. But as you can see, this 92 million ties to the previous report. Let's get into some real detail. Okay, so the beginning balance, with beginning balance, revenue is 551 million, 484 million last year. That's approximately 67 million higher compared to this year last year, of which 42 million is related to on behalf. So we were 122 million this year versus 80 million last year we did on behalf. So that's that difference of 42 million. We picked up the other portion of on behalf later in the year once we got the report from KTRS. But at the same time, we did not report this to you, so I want to compare apples to apples. So the true difference between the two is 25 million. In relation to revenue taken out of the beginning balance, the same thing, 498 million versus 435 million. Of that, 42 million is on behalf difference, with the true difference being 21 million. In expenses, it's 490 million versus 442 million, with approximately 48 million difference. Rounding is approximately $7 million difference, including fund balance. Now, in relation to that, what we have is, on the expense side, we have several payrolls that have come out. So in June, as everybody aware, we paid the 15th and the last day of the month. Well, in June, teachers have, and Tyler's probably familiar with this, teachers have the ability that they can sign off to receive all their checks over the summer. So we take a piece of their check every pay period that's put aside. Then they can decide if they want to get paid for that at the end of June or get paid over the summer, July 15th, July 31st, or August 15th. This is approximately $58 million in expenses that come in June every year. On the revenue side, we have what's called accruals that come in for things that happened in the previous year. So for instance, utilities revenue, we don't receive it until July, but it goes back into June. Occupation license tax, on the other end, a lot of revenue comes in because they have their quarterlies and year-end at July 25th. So from July 25th through the first several weeks of August, there's a big influx of revenue that's actually related to work that happened and things that happened prior to June 30th. So that's what caused the major change in June. Any questions about that?
So if somebody asked me from May to June, how did we spend $187 million? The answer is on behalf payments, teacher salaries.
Yeah, and on behalf payments are not true spending
Right,
money.
yeah.
So we have to book it on the revenue side and the expense side. That's net money. That's why we don't include that as part of our, getting to our calculation for fund balance 10%. Sorry. The balance sheet reflects total assets 91 million, total liabilities 30 million. Our financial position still remains strong. All of the trust funds have been reported and sent in to Bluegrass Community Foundation. As a summary, this is an audited year-end report, reflects approximately 121.6 million on behalf. The balance sheet also reflects total liabilities 30 million, of which 18.5 million is accrued salaries and benefits payable. So what that 18.5 is, although we have to book it on the expense side immediately, when people choose to get their checks over the summer, we have to book it as a liability and then pay it out. So that amount is decreasing every month. Our ending funding balance only reflects activity revenue expenses through June as applicable. Our fund balance will include accruals expenses through August 15th that will have been moved back to June 2019 as applicable per accounting standards. Historically, the net increase of $8 to $10 million occurred. That's the net increase of revenue netted against the expenses at that time. This will reflect the true fund balance in the next month's working budget. You will see that before you present, when John and Jelaine present the budget. Other notes, final year-end adjustment notes and other requirements are being completed at this time. The annual audit has started for the 2019 fiscal year, and once everything is completed, you receive a full audit report with all final numbers, all audited numbers in 2019 as part of the audit. Are there any other questions or concerns?
Now, we anticipate, because we're working on a budget biennium, that the on-behalf payment should remain stable for the fiscal year 20, or?
It's kind of hard to call. I mean, it's really a guess. I mean, last year, I think we budgeted 137.5.
137.5.
And they didn't come in nowhere near that. It came in like 121.
Okay.
We were surprised when they chose to fund fully that part of the KTRS.
KTR.
So we're basically at their will on that, how they do it. They submit it to us in a report. I can tell you this is the first year that we got that information as far as KTRS early enough to make sure it's part of the report, because usually I don't get that until mid-September sometimes. So KD is pushing that timeline up to get that information out.
And what's the situation with our CERS, our classified employees retirement?
It keeps increasing, like 12%
About
every year.
another 12% each year, last year and this year, and projected for next year as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other additional questions for the staff at this time? With that, I will take a motion in order to accept the unaudited year-end treasurer's report of revenue and expenses reports as presented to the board.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Murphy. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
We do have several informational items for the board's review this evening, including the School Activity Fund monthly and year-end reports and the personnel changes for August. If there are no questions about any of those items, that concludes the board agenda for this evening. We do have a need to go into closed session, board members.
So this is the time of our meeting where members of the public who have signed up to speak on an item not on the agenda may speak, and at this time, we do not have any members here this evening to speak. So a motion is in order to approve, hold on a second. So the next part of it is the board request summary. Is there any board requests? The other business, I do have some other business this evening. I just want to make it official so that you all may be invited to the meetings and such. I am adding Mr. Nash to the audit committee, along with Mr. Love, and I am adding Mr. Murphy to the budget committee, along with Mr. Daniels. And then at our meeting last week, Mr. Daniels made the recommendation for a steering committee over the finances of the safety dollars, and Mr. Daniels and myself will be serving on that committee so that there will be 2 board members on each committee. And board members are always invited to the other committees, but if you can check with myself or Miss Daly before, because if 3 members show up, then we have a quorum. And so we don't want that to happen. So we need to make sure that we're working together, but I want to make sure that you all are included so that you can receive documentation ahead of the meetings and such. And with that, there is no other information, so I'd like to have a motion to make the agenda part of the official minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Love.
Second.
A second by Mr. Nash. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. So now I will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B to discuss acquisition or sale of real property, KRS 61.8101C to discuss proposed or pending litigation, and pursuant to KRS 61.8101F to discuss personnel. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Love, a second by Mr. Murphy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. And if we could all go very quickly, I have been told it is a very short special thing, and I know a couple of people